So good morning, everybody. It's great to see you. So before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territories of the First Nations peoples. So I know here where I am in Vancouver, I'm on the land of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. But many of you, blessedly, are on the land of other nations. We're dialing in from all over this morning. So if you'd like, please feel free to write those nation names in the chat now. And let's always remember our connection to our siblings in these nations, especially today on Canada Day, which is a day of celebration for many of us and a day of sorrow for many others of us. And let's just pray for the day in which we might be with our Indigenous friends in right relationship. So, and welcome. Welcome to Living Interfaith. Know that the whole of you is welcome. You're not asked to leave who you are in your own homes. So please always bring who you are in with you. But what you are asked to remember is that everyone around you has brought who they are in with them as well. And all of goodwill are welcome. And now I mentioned before we got the recording started that Bruce and Cheryl are traveling around again this month, and they didn't even invite us. I can't believe this. So they're not with us this month either. But Carolyn and Greg are so wonderful, and they have blessedly volunteered to lead the music today. So thank you so much, Carolyn and Greg. So I'll share the lyrics and the songs as we go, and they will lead us in song. So when you're ready, over to you.
Okay.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
It was so beautiful. Thank you so much. I love it. And I love the addition of the flute. It's beautiful. So here I have just a few announcements. So the first announcement, it's very exciting. I know some of you already have this, but if you don't, this is Stephen Greenbaum's new book. So Stephen is my mentor. He's usually with us when he's awake. And he is the founder of the Living Interfaith model that we follow. And this is actually one of his books was very small. So he says this is his fourth, but it's actually his fifth interfaith book. So an afternoon's dictation. And I can put the link in the chat if anyone's interested. And essentially this is, Stephen says it's his final book. I think that's probably true, but we'll see. I've heard him say that before. And it's when he's sharing about his first spiritual experience, or one of his first spiritual experiences. And the insight he got that made him want to start the idea of an interfaith congregation. People from different traditions come together to worship together. So it's very cool. It's a really good book. I'm reading it now. And I know some others already have it, but if you're at all interested in that or in getting to know Stephen better, he's just so lovely. So yes, we have that. And then also today is Canada Day for those of us here in Canada. And there's going to be a big celebration in Delta. Our friends at the Bator Rahman Ahmadiyya Mosque are having a gathering today at 4 p.m. So it's going to be a big community building event and then a barbecue. And I don't know how many folks here know them. They're so lovely. Their people come to speak and join us often. And I'm just going to put the address in the chat. So it's at this place, and it should be really fun. They always have people from all over come for that. So it should be lovely. So those are my only announcements right now. Does anyone else have any other announcements they'd like to share?
Kathy, just can I add to that about those dear people?
Yes,
They
please.
are so welcoming and loving. You'd think you were part of their group, of their congregation, if that's not the right word, but they welcome you with open arms. It's a really sweet experience to be with them.
Here. It really is. They're so wonderful. So if you can make it down to Delta today. Anything else? Okay, so if not, let's come into silence for a moment. We'll do our opening prayer. Holy One, divine being of all nations, today we thank you for the life and history of this country of Canada, for its vast beauty, its wilderness, its wealth of forests, prairies, and coastlines. We praise you for its people, the people whose ancestors have been here since time immemorial, as well as those who have only just arrived. We thank you for the variety of our traditions and our cultures, the riches of our spiritual and religious heritage, and the strength of our democratic institutions, that they might remain strong until our children's children are living and leading here. Let us pray today for Canada, for our fellow Canadians, our Indigenous people who've been grossly harmed in the formation of this country, and also for our governments, that we might all work together to face the future with confident hope and faith in your purpose for our world. In deep love for you and our fellow citizens, we pray. Amen. Thank you. And Rachel?
Yes, I have our candle lighting prayer, and this is from Rabbi Victor Reinstein. Our God and God of our ancestors, in whose image all people are created, receive with compassion our prayer on behalf of our country, its government, its leaders, and its people. Bless the rich tapestry of our Canadian diversity, the many strands of race and creed, of culture and language, that we may know the blessing of unity through diversity. May all the peoples of our country learn and teach the ways of their ancestors and share them proudly. May we honor with humility those who first dwelled on this land and learn from them the sacredness of earth and sky and water. Compassionate One, teach us your way of compassion. Bless and preserve the caring spirit of our country and the institutions that translate spirit into action. May it never again be that none is too many for any people seeking refuge in our land of plenty. Banish hatred and despair and cynicism, that peace and harmony may flourish among us. May our country be an influence for good within the family of nations, a voice of conscience, and a leader in seeking peace and pursuing it. And let us say Amen.
Beautiful. Thank you. And now let's offer one another a sign of peace. So peace, everyone. So good to be with you.
Peace unto all.
Peace. Salam alaikum. Happy Canada Day.
Peace, everyone.
Peace to each of you. Thank you so much for inviting us.
To everyone.
Beautiful. Thank you. And when you're ready, Carolyn and Greg.
Kathy, can you just remind me, is it the O Canada one?
It is, yes.
Okay,
No.
sorry, I don't have the program. Okay, just before we sing O Canada, we thought that would be a good song to sing together today. I just wanted to read you, it came to my mind to read you humbly a letter that I wrote to the our local paper, the Columbia Valley Pioneer. We live in Invermere, BC, in the East Kootenays, Greg and I. And one of our local editors, our journalists in the paper, had challenged those of us in our community to write to her about what actions we are taking to be anti-racist. And so my, it's just 400 words. That's all I was allowed, and which is great. And I wrote this to her, and it's in regard to singing "O Canada." So I just thought it might be appropriate for today. So I wrote, "Dear editor, reflecting on Donna Ditson's article, Our Insides Are Showing, June 11th, 2020, I have been paying attention to what is being revealed in my community and within myself. I am white Caucasian and identify as she, her. A few years ago, I represented the Valley Voices Community Choir by singing O Canada at the opening of a regional district meeting. I took great care in what I wore, memorized the words, practiced the high notes, and got there on time. Upon arriving, I asked how long I was expected to stay. The person who greeted me suggested that I could leave after I sang, but it might be nice if I stayed for the First Nations welcome. Much to my shame and embarrassment now, I did not. I left right away and went to a local establishment for coffee. In retrospect, the most memorable part of that day for me was having coffee and conversation with a local Indigenous woman who also had been at the opening ceremony, but she stayed longer than I did. My new acquaintance made no mention of my disrespect. Instead, she offered me friendship and kindness. To her, I remain grateful. To the choir, I apologize for not representing you well. To our local Indigenous community, I missed out on a gift that was offered, and I deeply regret that I was blind to how my actions may have affected you. I grew up with systemic racism, and it is now my responsibility to educate myself how to be anti-racist. This does not mean that I don't matter or my issues don't matter. Of course they do. What it means is that people who experience racism have not felt that they matter. I am being asked to listen and learn and to acknowledge that they do matter too. This is not just about incidental cases such as my story above. This is about a global community crisis that is being unveiled both within us and around us. One question I have for the pioneer is why only one faith tradition, Christianity, is currently represented in the faith column of the paper. The Baha'i faith, Hinduism, Indigenous spirituality, Islam, Judaism, and Sikhism are just a few of the rich variety of traditions represented in the Columbia Valley. Surely we have so much to learn from one another in these times of uncertainty, change, and social transformation. And I humbly offer that as actually, I wrote the letter to the paper 2 years ago, but I sang several years ago. So hopefully I've learned a lot, and of course I have much more to learn. So the paper wrote back, put an addendum and said they welcome all faith traditions to write into the paper. So that was reassuring to hear. So anyway, now Greg and I offer you our O Canada and invite you to sing along.
Calixa Lavalier, the music, R. Stanley Weir, the words, and all of us singing.
Rise, a true North song and free.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Carolyn and Greg. And thank you also for sharing your letter. I see folks wrote in the chat and it was very inspiring, and it really is. I just love seeing how we can all support each other and learning and growing and making sure we're including more and more voices over time. That's the whole basis of this community. And I love that so many of us support and really cherish that idea. Right. So well done. Feel very honored to be your friend. Thank you. I'm managing. Yes. Yes,
just have
Stephen,
to
feel
say
free.
that even though Bob and Lloyd are muted and they live 20 blocks away, I could still hear Bob singing.
Beautiful. Here, sorry, I'm managing more slides than usual today, so I'm just there we go.
I can do the joint affirmation.
Yes, please, Mary, over to you. Thank you.
Okay. We come together in peace. We sing together in joy and with love. We worship together in one house, a house with names beyond number. Our paths are many. Our beliefs are as leaves, and the tree that we cleave to is nourished by the light of compassion, justice, and mutual respect. May our lives, our beliefs, and our actions help to bring about the world of love we all seek, and let it begin here.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mary. And now is when we pray in our own homes and in our own ways. And as always, there are so many different people and causes that need our prayers. Sadly, probably many of us have people in our own lives that need so many of our prayers right now and so much support. But, this last year, just within the last month, actually, Samir and I and the kids have all become Canadian citizens, which has been a great joy and honor for us. And we were in different ceremonies because Samir was in India. And when you're doing the ceremony, they do them all online right now, no matter where you are in Canada. And but you have to be in the country at the time, even though it's online. And so I know when I was doing it with the kids, there were 120 of us becoming citizens at that time. And Samir said there were at least 100 in his group becoming citizens just a few weeks later. And so it was really lovely. And it was quite emotional because you could see it was on Zoom. So you see all the little boxes. And it was so many families from clearly all over the world becoming citizens, and many of them dressed up the way folks are today in red and with Canadian flags. And you could see so many of the families, the parents start to cry. I'm getting emotional now thinking about it when they announced, like, you're now Canadian, you're at home. And just thinking about all that people had to go through in order to get to that point. Some of these very large families with so many children who've come from all over, and many of whom are here as refugees and who finally now are becoming citizens. So it just really touched me. And so if we could take some time to pray for refugees, for those who are getting citizenship now, for those who are finding a safe place to live, and for those who are still on their journey. Let's just take some time to pray for refugees now. Thank you. And when you're ready, Carolyn and Greg, I think you want to sing Dona Nobis Pacem next.
Thank you, Kathy. And we sang this last week or 2 weeks ago as well, but we have the music up there today. So please feel free to sing along at home. And
As a round, if you want.
As a round,
If you want. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. So now is when I usually say that if we met in person, I would pass around a basket. But instead of a basket, I'm going to put our donation page in the chat. So thank you. We are a nonprofit and we benefit so much. I know many of you donate regularly or when you can, and we're very, very grateful for all that you bring to support this community, support myself and our managing director, Rachel, and our musicians, and all of our work in the community. So thank you for what you bring to it. And also I love that one of the, I miss Bruce and Cheryl, but one of the benefits of when we're not here is, you know, right now, Greg and Carolyn are doing the music. Steve will be helping with the music next time, and he did it as well 2 times ago. Rachel ran the service last time because I was away. And so just ways that we all contribute, Mary leading the joint affirmation. So I love that we're a community and we can kind of step up and all support this and make this happen. So thank you for contributing in all the different ways you do, not just financially. And now, Carolyn and Greg, if you want to sing From You I Receive.
I don't know if she's going to put the music up. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Great. So now it's my joy and honor to turn it over to my friend, Bob Peacock. So he's so wonderful. I've known Bob for almost 2 years now. He's a member of the Canadian Memorial United Church, where I also work. And he and his husband, Lloyd, have been there for longer than I have and are really important parts of the community. And Bob is one of the nicest, most joyful people I know. And he has an amazing story that he has generously agreed to share this week. So when you're ready, Bob, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And first, I would like to thank you all for this great invitation to be able to come before you and speak on a personal level with regards to my struggles as what I stated was being a Navy queer. During the years of the purge within the Canadian Armed Forces, just the inkling of being gay or having effeminate mannerisms or whatever, the type of harassment, and women who looked rather masculine, the harassment, the berating that you would get from other people in the service was sometimes beyond the pale. That I'm surprised that the suicide levels weren't higher than what they were. But people, because of the love of country, and what I said in my opening was that because it was a family tradition, not that I felt obligated, but for some reason, unbeknownst to me, which I didn't put in my remarks, by the way, Kathy, but on the way I got into the Navy was my mom sent me out for milk one afternoon. We ran out of milk, which was unusual, and I thought, what? Okay, Mom, I'll go to the store and I'll pick you up some milk. But for some reason, I went a different route and found a different store. But right next to the store was a recruitment office. So instead of going to the store, I walked into the recruitment office and said, I would like to join the Canadian Navy. The guy gave me the papers. I wrote them up. He said, do you know what you're doing? And how old are you? And I stated at that time, I was only 17. And he said, well, you need your parents' consent and whatever. I said, okay, give me the papers and I'll go do it. And so when I went home, Mom said, where's the milk? I had totally forgot to get the milk. So I had to go back to another store and get the milk. In the meantime, I'd left the papers on the table. Well, when I got back with the milk, my mom freaked. What are you doing? You cannot do this and stuff. And I said, you know what, Mom? I have no idea why I did it, why I walked in, but it's too late now. I've signed the thing. I can't go back. But then my dad, when he got home, my dad was a different story. My dad was not a nice person. He was a Pharisee, what I called him a Pharisee. He was a religious man, but not really religious, if you know what I mean. He was abusive. He used God as a weapon against us all. We were his satanic imps. My mother was the devil incarnate because we just didn't sort of believe what he believed at that point in time, because we were never given a chance to really foster who God was or what we felt God was. We were told, this is who God is, and this is who you will accept, and this is what you will do. So when I said I was a spiritual mess, that was one of the reasons I was a spiritual mess, until I was old enough to be able to think for myself and ask God, realizing that there was a God there saying, I need you to tell me, not what my dad's telling me or what other people are telling me, but what you tell me. And it took years and years to get there. But having said that, it was a family tradition. My dad was so excited that finally this little effeminate guy was going to do something manly. My grandpas were of the same ilk. My other grandfather was in the Army. My other grandfather was also Navy. My dad's brother was Navy. So even though my mom and I had talked about it, and she was still sort of on the fence, oh, Bob, do you really want to do this? And I said, yeah, Mom, I'm going to do it. I think I can do it. She said, but what about? She never ever came out and said it. she never come out and said, well, what about if you're homosexual or not, you know? And I don't know if that would have made a difference at that point in time, because I was so determined that this is what I wanted to do. So to make a long story short, that's what I did. When I received the whole thing, I when it was time to go, my grandparents on my dad's side were so related. They had a big party for me and all came down and got me on the bus. I got on the bus and there was a bunch of other, what we called metlos, of course, sailors who were new recruits going down to Cornwallis. And I thought, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. We all sort of talked to each other and said, hi, oh, where are you from? And whatever. Most of us at that time were from Nova Scotia. And it was cool. So we got down to Cornwallis, and of course, when we got off the bus, it was a different story. As I said, the discipline was something else. It wasn't, hey, Bob, or hey, John, or hey, Jack, or whoever. It was, okay, Peacock, get off the effing bus and stand at attention. Well, I was used to the F word anyway from my dad, so that didn't bother me too much, but it was the knocks in the arms if you didn't stand straight enough, or getting the shoulders back. So I thought, oh gosh, how am I going to get through this right from the first start? But then getting into the barracks and stuff, I thought, okay, I can do this. And so, but I was still in the back of my mind, oh my gosh, what if I do something that's overly effeminate or whatever? And then I thought to myself, okay, believe it or not, that's when I sort of started to pray to myself, saying, okay, God, I need something here. You need to help me out here. Butch me up. Try to think, make me more manly. And that wasn't going to happen. And so I thought the best thing to do was just be me. Be as honest as I could. That if somebody asks me the question outright, just tell them the truth. Because the minute you lie, you're going to be in big trouble, regardless of what takes place. So if you're not meant to be here at this time, you'll get thrown out. So just be truthful. So in the barracks, as I stated in my little report, is that I, after many weeks and whatever, I was fitting in, I was loving it. I loved the discipline. I loved the educational part of things. I was striving to become a signalman special, which I really enjoyed. And so then new recruits were coming in, and as they were coming in, I was the lead in our barracks. And so, of course, when the new recruits come in, I had to be the person to show them around, talk to them and say, okay, you're sure this is really what you wanted to do? And here's your bunk. And I still remember him. It was a wonderfully, wonderful, wonderful Indigenous man from Ontario. At that time, of course, they didn't call themselves Indigenous. He just said, I'm a big effing Indian from Ontario. And he sat down on the bunk and he said, I just hope there's no queers here. And as he said that, my heart jumped and I went, are you for real? Do you really think that there's queers here? And I said, I'm sure there are somewhere. I went and I kept on going. And he laughed and laughed and laughed. And he said, oh, well, he said, well, I'll find out later. But he said, I'm not going to worry about it, sort of thing. And then he said, then he used the word fruits, which I hadn't heard in a while. And he said, but I'm sure there are a few fruits around. And I thought, I wonder if this guy has a problem. He didn't look like he did. He didn't come across to me as having any homosexual tendencies at all. And I thought, there's going to be a problem here. But we became friends. We actually became friends. And later on, down the line, I told him. And for some reason, he said, you know what? I would never have believed it. And I said, well, I did tell you sort of in a way. I didn't just come right out and say it. He said, I just thought it was a big joke. And I said, but after me dancing with all the guys in the barracks, and I said, all of us dancing together and sort of, swiping at each other, you didn't get it? He said, no, that never crossed my mind. He said, I danced with you. He said, I didn't think of anything like that. So there was an unspoken camaraderie, and there were guys who knew or thought they knew, didn't have the guts to come up and ask me to my face, but knew. But then if something happened, if somebody would say something about, oh, that Peacock, what a faggot or what a fruit or whatever, the guys would become very protective, which was really cool. So you know what, in that respect, God was looking out for me. I believed that. I believed it. And then I joined the choir within the chaplaincy and loved every minute of it, and never really thought any more about it. Had great Ren friends that we all went to the dances with, that we protected each other. There were lesbians who we bonded with each other, but we always had that thing that you just never said anything about it unless somebody up and said, yeah, I don't have a problem with this. Or in some cases, people used it to get out of the service. And they thought, I can't handle this anymore. So we had Wrens who would say, hey, I'm a lesbian, but in fact, they really weren't. And they didn't realize the consequences later on and afterwards by doing that how badly they would be treated, even though they weren't. And it was too late for them to take it back because nobody would believe them again. So that was sad. But we became friends. And then to make a long story short, but I will tell you this, I absolutely loved the Navy. I loved it. And I had aspirations that I thought one day that I would become the commandant of the whole East Coast of the Navy. And that was my dream. That's what I wanted to do. But I guess God had other plans for me. Because in 1967, we were on a tour of Canada. It was Canada's birthday. It was its 100th birthday. And this is so appropriate for today. And so we were in St. John's, Newfoundland. I don't know if you know, but in those days you could get, and I drank like a fish, smoked in the whole business. I was a typical sailor with a mouth to match. And so we were down in our quarters. When after a bunch of us, we had a day off. We thought, okay, let's drag out the puss of rum, which we saved. We used to save our rum, even though you weren't supposed to. We saved it, and we thought, let's just have a day of it. So I think amongst us, we had about 4 big things of rum. We decided, okay, we'll stay in the barracks and we'll drink it up. We'll have a good time. Well, a few of the other guys were gay as well, and we got carried away. And we started talking about clubs and gay things and whatever. And there was people in the barracks that we should have noticed, and we didn't, that heard our conversations. And one of the guys was really ticked off about it and told us to shut our effing mouths and stuff. And there's no way we were going to shut up. We were just having too good a time. And to the point when he provoked us somewhat, a few of the guys would kiss each other on the cheek or something. And a couple of the guys actually necked. And we would say, cool it, guys, because you're going to get in trouble. Unbeknownst to us at that time, a guy went upstairs, talked to the old man on the bridge, and said, we got a bunch of fruits and queers down in the quarters. And nobody came down to ask us anything. The next thing we knew, the onboard, what we call the onboard shore patrol, basically the ship police came down, took us out of the mess room, separated us, and put us all in different quarters, and said, this is where you stay for the night until we come and get you to go eat. Or they brought us a tray. And we were all put in separate rooms, so nobody could talk to each other, nobody could see each other. That night, they cleaned out all of our lockers, packed our stuff up, and put our duffel bags on the deck. They made us go in single file into the mess room to have breakfast, even though I didn't want to eat. We were still pretty hungover as well. But one of the guys, unbeknownst to me at the time, had gone into the washroom and dyed his hair. He dyed his hair a massive, ugly, blonde type thing, which he said, here I am, everybody. So as we were walking in the mess room, of course, we got all the jeers and the, hey, look at the fruits, look at those bloody queers over there and stuff. And I didn't know what to do at that time. I didn't know whether to cry or call back something nasty. So I just said, please, God, just let this go over with. And I just thought, hold your head up. Just hold your head up and just walk by. And those that acknowledge, walk by, eat, and get out. So they had a plane waiting for us at the Newfoundland airport. So they put us on the plane, and we couldn't sit together They put us in different sections. And when we got to Shearwater, Nova Scotia, they took us off, put us in a bus, and we couldn't sit near each other because I guess they were afraid we'd talk or something. I don't know. And so when we got to Stadacona, they took us off the bus and separately put us in. And they took pictures of us, but they'd already had pictures of us anyway from Stadacona. But as you went in to Stadacona, on a bulletin board was your pictures. And each picture stated that you, because of gross indecency, we were not allowed to talk to any of the other people in Stadacona. They put us in separate barracks. They put us in separate rooms. You couldn't go to the washroom without you had to knock on the door to make sure that nobody was in there. You had somebody with you at all times who would wait outside the door so that you went in, did your business, and then came out. Then they took you back to the barracks until it was time to eat or to go on a cleaning detail. And they give you the worst jobs ever, you know, from setting up benches for baseball games and sports stuff to going and down to the commandant's office and having to clean out his toilets. And if there was any toilets to clean, it seemed I was the one that got the toilets to clean, which I didn't mind because that was better than some of the stuff that some of the people had to do. But then they decided they were going to have a investigation. So they had the investigation, and in that investigation, they called in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and believe it or not, an RCMP. And I thought, what's the RCMP doing there? Why are they there? And so 2 of the guys they had drummed out immediately because the guys had gone and I guess talked to the officer, the duty officer, and said, we're not going to go through this investigation. We're queer and we're doing this and we don't need to go through the investigation, so just get us out. So they went and got a dishonorable discharge and were thrown out. Even though we weren't allowed to talk to them, later on I found that out, how that happened. But what I did is I went to the investigation because I thought, for some reason in my head, I thought I've got to try and fight this to a point. I know I'm not going to win it, but I've got to be honest and upfront about it and say, but what they wanted, they didn't care really whether you were gay. It was what you were doing within the services. If you were, all they cared about is if you were having sex with, didn't matter with women, with men, with whoever. They just wanted to know what was going on within the other services. Did you go to the barracks and the Air Force barracks? Did you go down to Shearwater? Did you go over to this one? Did you go to that one? Did you go onto other ships? During the Armada, which we had in 1967 as well, Bob or Peacock, you were the signalman on the ship, and you were going from ship to ship to ship to ship. You were going on the Russian ship, you were going on the Italian ship, the French ship. Oh, did you encounter any homosexuals there? Did they think for 1 minute that I would tell them if I did? You know, and that's what they wanted. They didn't care. That was another part of their purge, was to try and get you to say, yeah, I've met this many guys on the French ship. Yeah, I met this many people in Shearwater. Yeah, this many people in Stadacona. I wouldn't do it. All I said to them at this time, look, I've told you that I was gay. And then the RCMP officer, which I didn't put in my report, the RCMP officer was getting pretty belligerent. And he said he wanted to know, no, I can't say those words. He was really belligerent and nasty. You're nothing but a CSer and all this stuff. And I got mad and said, you know what, you can say what you want, but you, the RCMP officer, you're enjoying this too much. You're enjoying the questions. Maybe you should stand up in front of your fellow officers, because I think you're getting off on this. He wouldn't stand up. The Army officer basically said to the RCMP officer, enough. I've had enough of your nonsense, and leave. So then all they said to me afterwards is that we'll be investigating, we'll be telling you what I said about the clubs that you attended and this, that you admitted you were actively homosexual. I said, I don't know what that means, actively homosexual. I didn't know what it meant at that time. Did I have sex in the service? I said, I can guarantee you no, that there's nobody in that barracks will ever tell you the same. No, I didn't sleep with any of the officers. No, I didn't sleep with any of the guys. But yes, here and here, I'm a homosexual. What I do outside of the service, outside of my off time, is none of your business. And the one guy from the Air Force agreed. But he wanted to know again, but Peacock, did you sleep with any Air Force officers? I said, I just told you no. You know, what else do you want? So it took them, so then they sent me out. They didn't arrest me. I thought they would. They didn't arrest me or put me in cells. They sent me back to Stadacona to still be isolated, to still be, until they made a decision. So the chaplain came to visit me, and we talked about God. And I said to him, you know what, I really believe in this whole process. I said, I don't know why. I said, but I believe that God has been by my side the whole time. I said, I don't know why this had happened during this time in 1967, when I had such great aspirations in this service. And all he said to me was, well, he started doing the scriptures and stuff. And I said, I don't need you to tell me anything. I said, in my heart, I said, and where I am speaking with God with now, that I'm okay. I'm okay. And it took them 6 months to finally say, Peacock, we're releasing you, but we're going to give you an honorable discharge. And that's what they did. They took me out. They kept most of the pension money, of course, and not that I cared that much about it. But I was sad. I left. My parents were horrified, but they said, please, 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 don't say nothing to your grandparents about why you got out. Is that okay? And all I said was, you know what? If they ask, I'm going to tell them. I'm just going to tell them, because I said, I used to hear some of the stuff my granddads used to say about the homos in the service when they were there, and it bothered me. So my mom said, please, Bob, just don't say nothing to your dad's grandmother, because you know what she's like. And I said, okay, I'll make that promise. But if Granddad asks me, I'm going to tell him. And he never did. He just said, son, you know, I'm sorry you decided to get out. And all I said was, well, you know, it was time. So I basically sort of lied to him at that point, but I didn't want to. But as for the spiritual mess, I think that led me on the way. And I think that Lloyd and I, when I first met Lloyd, there's a whole other story in there. I was married. When I got into the service, because I had girlfriends prior to, I also had a child at that time. She was 10 months old. And the person, my fiance at the time, we had broken up. I didn't want to get married. But again, who knows what happens to you? What destiny has in store for you? We got married. It didn't last long. It lasted 2 weeks. And I met Lloyd, and we've been together for 55 years. So I think God works in really mysterious ways. I don't like some of the ways they happen because of the marriage thing and the people that were hurt because of it. But I'm pleased to say, and I'm so glad to say, that with Lloyd's ex-wife, we had a relationship. With our granddaughters, with our daughters, we have relationships. We both have grandchildren that we have relationships with. So God is good. Am I a proud Canadian? You betcha. And if you let me, I'll read what I said. After my dismissal, which was honorable, the Canadian Armed Forces investigation team made up, in which I told you about that. But did you know that because of some of this, in 1969, when Prime Minister Trudeau went and declared that to stay out of the bedrooms of the nation. And then years later, to know that in 2025, there will be a monument to the LGBTQ2S plus people in this country who sacrificed and who were in the service, and that there will be a monument erected in Ottawa called Thundercloud, which was done by Indigenous artists. If you get a chance, look it up. It's called Thundercloud. It's a new monument coming in 2025 in Ottawa for that specific reason. And then I have an insignia. I have insignias that the Armed Services sent me. If you can see them, they depict the colors of the rainbow. And so I received a citation from the, this is it here, from the Armed Services that said, if I may, Robert William Peacock, on behalf of Her Majesty's Canadian Government, the Canada Pride citation is hereby granted to you in recognition of your valuable service to Canada and the hardship you endured as a result of the historical policies and practices in connection with the LGBTQ purge. And that's what it was. It was a terrible purge. And so was the insignia pieces. So I hope that I helped a little bit in that area by staying strong and then having other people, as the government started to recognize, hey, we're all there, we're everywhere, and that we're also in the service, and that we can contribute mightily to the defense of this country. So, as I said, for being a proud Canadian G, where else is there such a beautiful mosaic of peoples where their government has recognized our humanity as gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, two-spirited, and intersex and asexual people, and me, a gay man who loves God. Canada stands up for protection and promotion of the human rights of all Canadians, because human rights for all persons are universal and indivisible. Not only at home here in Canada, but internationally, our government, as Canadians, we engage, we consult, and we support. Not only the LGBTQ2IA community, but the beautiful mosaic of our countries and Canadians' peoples. Am I proud? You betcha. Canada is a rainbow to all who seek her. Happy birthday, Canada. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Bob.
Welcome.
That was so powerful. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I hope that was okay. I hope that wasn't too much. You're going to need a break now. Oh my goodness.
That's fine. I'm just so proud that you all had me here, that you had both of us here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Carolyn and Greg, they have a song for us, We Are a Rainbow. So it's very on topic. So when you're ready, over to you, Carolyn and Greg.
Well, we sang it last week as well, and I had invited our friends to just sing the chorus, but this week we have all the words up there for everybody to sing along. And I read just a short little introduction last week, and I'll read it again for Bob and Lloyd. So the hymn we have chosen to sing today is called We Are a Rainbow, words and music written by David Kai, who you might recognize from another couple of familiar hymns in our More Voices hymn book. David is a third-generation Canadian of Japanese descent who grew up attending the Toronto Japanese United Church. The inspiration for this hymn draws on rainbow-colored imagery in the Bible and the imagery of light. And the hymn suggests that affirming ministries have a badly needed light, which they can proudly share with the world. So here we go. Hope you enjoy it.
Is she going to flash the words?
Oh.
Yeah, okay. Just say it. Okay.
Oop, just hang on till we get it up there.
Is that okay? I was sharing the lyrics. I also have the song. Would you prefer if I share the sheet music?
No, whichever. I don't know if people can see that, then
Is this big enough?
That's okay. That's just the words. Either way.
I also have the sheet music if that would be better.
No, you made it bigger, so maybe that's fine for now.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not sure what people would like. Whichever way is
Yeah,
good.
no, that's that.
This one?
Okay.
Okay. We're the light of all the world. We are a city on a hill. We're a candle on a stand proclaiming light. We will not hide our lamp beneath a bushel anymore. We will shine a ray of hope that's burning bright. We are a rainbow, sign of covenant and peace, for the flood of tears will finally cease to be. Come shine your rainbow, splash your hues across the sky, paint the world in colors, proud and bold and free. We're a coat of many colors, sewn from many different threads, covering all in warmth and welcome and embrace. God said, let there be light, created every varied shade. In the rainbow, each of us can find a place. We are a rainbow, sign of covenant and peace, for the flood of tears will finally cease to be. Come shine your rainbow, splash your hues across the sky, paint the world in colors, proud and bold and free. We're a hope to still believe in tomorrow's better day. We are peace in a world that's torn apart. We are joy that will last in all the struggles that we face. We are love that blooms and grows in every heart. We are a rainbow, sign of covenant and peace, for the flood of tears will finally cease to be. Come shine your rainbow, splash your hues across the sky, paint the world in colors, proud and bold and free. When we face the storms of life, we will never be alone, for our God will be with us on the way. Hand in hand, side by side, we won't be frightened anymore, as the morning night of tears breaks into day. We are a rainbow, sign of covenant and peace, for the flood of tears will finally cease to be. Come shine your rainbow, splash your hues across the sky, paint the world in colors, proud and bold and free. Paint the world in colors, proud and bold and free.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Carolyn and Greg. And friends, let's go forth on this Canada Day, just remembering stories like this, remembering times that Canada hasn't lived into its values and the way that we've intended, but hopefully remembering these stories, not so that we don't get to feel proud as Canadians, but so we can do better, so that all of those who work hard and want to take care of others and want to be good people in this world are able to be supported, so that in another lifetime, Bob could be in charge of the whole Navy on the East Coast. And so I would love that. That would be amazing. And yeah, so we can be who we are. Like Bob said, just listen, fully embrace who we are, embrace our personal relationships with the divine, know that we can live into this and create a country where that's possible for all of us to do that in our own lives and with one another. So let's hopefully live into this going forward. And in that spirit, happy Canada Day. Amen.